What is up guys, Zichi here. In this video I'm going to be covering a deck tech on Odric Master Tactician. He is a 3/4 human soldier with first strike, and his ability reads, whenever Odric and at least 3 other creatures attack, you choose which creatures block this combat and how those creatures block. So you attack with him and 3 other creatures. You choose how any creature on the battlefield blocks, and if they block or not, how they block. You can have them block at a disadvantage. You can have no blockers against you, which is a valid option. So this is an extremely casual deck, and it does quite well. I actually built this last month, and I played 2 games, and like both games I did relatively well. The second game I could have won, but then I decided to not attack one guy for lethal, and he ended up winning his next turn. So it does quite well. The deck is a human soldier tribal deck. There are other cards in the deck that don't fit the human soldier theme, but most of it is human soldiers or just humans. So the first creature is Ambush Paratrooper. It's a 2 mana 1/2 with flash, and then for 5 mana you can buff all your creatures for +1/+1. Then we have Archetype of Courage. It's a 3 mana 2/2. It says creatures you control have first strike, and then creatures your opponent control lose first strike and can't have or gain first strike. So it's basically gives every creature first strike, and that helps you block or attack at an advantage. Then we have Archivist of Ogma, which is a 2 mana 2/2 halfling cleric. Does not fit the theme, but he is in the deck to draw your card and gain a life every time an opponent searches their library. Then we have Aiming Mind Sensor, a little bit of stacks. An opponent would, if an opponent would search a library, that player searches the top 4 cards of that library instead. Also a little bit of a stacks theme going on, but this for 3 mana you can flash him in. Then we have Baird, Steward of Argive, which is a 4 mana human soldier with vigilance, and then it reads, creatures can't attack you or planeswalkers you control unless their controller pays 1 for each of those creatures. So it does slow, it does discourage people from attacking you on their turn. If they want to play other spells, they can't attack you unless they pay 1. Then we have Benelish Commander, which is a solid card, 3 mana human soldier that reads, Benelish Commander's power and toughness are equal to the number of soldiers you control. And then you have Suspend X in 2 mana. X can't be 0, and then it says, whenever a time counter is removed from Benelish Commander while it's exiled, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. So let's say you make X7. Every time a counter is removed from a suspend counter is removed, you create a 1/1 soldier, and then he enters the battlefield, let's say as a 7/7, because you created like X was 7. You just create soldiers. You'll see that a lot of like a great theme in this deck is creating tokens. It's quite easy to create a lot of tokens, which will enable Odric to attack and activate his ability. Then we have Captain of the Watch, which is a 6 mana human soldier, which is also a 3/3 with vigilance, and then it reads, other soldier creatures you control get +1/+1 and have vigilance. When Captain of the Watch enters the battlefield, put 3 1/1 white soldier creature tokens onto the battlefield. So again, creating a lot of tokens, 1/1 white soldier creature tokens for 6 mana. Then we have Consul's Lieutenant, which is a 2 mana 2/1 human soldier with first strike and renown. Renown is whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, if it isn't renowned, put the +1/+1 counter on it, and it becomes renowned. Then it reads, whenever Consul Lieutenant attacks, if it's renowned, other attacking creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. So it's a 2 mana creature buff, but you need to give it renown. With Odric, it would be quite easy because you can just set him to be not blocked, and then you just deal damage and he becomes renowned. Then we have Copper Coat Vanguard, which is a very good card in this deck. 2 mana, 2/2 human soldier, and it reads each other human you control gets +1/+0 and has Ward 1. Ward 1 is a new mechanic that was introduced. If you target it with a spell, if it's not your, like, if an opponent targets it with a spell, the spell is counted unless they pay 1. And that's for each human, and there is a lot of humans in this deck, including Odric. So all humans get Ward 1, which is quite good. Then you have Court Street Denizen. It's a 3 mana 2/2 human soldier that reads, whenever another white creature enters the battlefield under your control, tap target creature an opponent controls. So again, this is creating tokens. They're all white tokens, so this is a mono white deck. And then you just tap down creatures and just, yeah, I mean, what else do I need to explain more than tapping down creatures for basically just like playing a creature or having a white creature enter the battlefield. A lot of combat steps is going to happen with this deck because it is quite casual. I don't think there's like a solitaire type win condition. And then secondly, we have Crusader of Odric, which is a 3 mana human soldier. And Crusader of Odric's power and toughness are equal to the number of creatures you control. And she does counter herself, so if you have 7 creatures, she is a 7/7, and with Odric, you can attack and choose no blocker. Then we have Defiler of Faith, which is a 5 mana Phyrexian human with Vigilance that says, as an additional cost to white permanent spells, you may pay 2 life. Those spells cost 1 planes less to cast if you paid life this way. This effect reduces only the amount of white mana you pay. Whenever you cast a white permanent spell, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. So again, if you play this, all your plain mana can be paid with life, and then you can cheat out cards paying 1 or 2, 2 or 4 life, depending on how many planes you need to pay. And then you can cheat out bigger creatures if you have the life, or if you can pay life to cast it. And then we have Doomed Traveler, which is just a 1/1 human soldier trying to get as much small creatures out as possible. And then if it dies, you create the 1/1 spirit creature token with flying. Then we have Elder Cathar, which is a 3 mana 2/2 human soldier. When Elder Cathar dies, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. If that creature is a human, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it instead. So again, it's just you want to flood the board with creature tokens, create cheap, it's like summon cheap creature human soldiers, and have Odric's ability trigger, as you can tell by the choice of cards in the deck. Then we have Evangel of Heliod, which is a 6 mana 1/3 human cleric, and it says, when Evangel of Heliod enters the battlefield, put a number of 1/1 white soldier creature tokens onto the battlefield equal to your devotion to white. So devotion works in the sense that for each, let's say you have a 1/1, like a Doomed Traveler, your plane's devotion is the mana cost of creatures you control. In this case, Doomed Traveler has 1 plane, so your devotion to white is 1. Evangel of Heliod is 6 mana, but 4 is generic and 2 is planes. And with only Evangel of Heliod on the battlefield, you will create 2 1/1 white soldier creature tokens. With Doom Traveler on the battlefield, you will create 3, including Evangel of Heliod. Yeah, if you're unfamiliar about how devotion works, I hope I explained it correctly enough. It's just the mana cost symbol, the amount of mana cost symbols in permanents you control. And that does not include sorcery or instants, because they're not permanents. And then has the Marshal, it's a 1 mana 1/1. Whenever has the Marshal and at least 2 other creatures attack, create the 1/1 white soldier creature token with lifelink. So again, you just create a lot of tokens. Then we have Keeper of the Accord, which is a 4-mana human soldier that is a 3/4. Yeah, it's a 3/4 human soldier. And it says at the beginning of each opponent's end step, if that player controls more creatures than you, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. At the beginning of each opponent's end step, if that player controls more lands than you must search a library for a basic plains, put it on the battlefield tap, then shuffle your library. And I mean, it's just a lot of value for 4 mana, and it's also a human soldier. So yeah. Then we have Kinsbell Courier, which is a 3-mana 2/1 Kithen soldier that reads whenever Kinsbell Courier enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on target creature, and then you can play it. You can cast it for its encore cost, which reads exile this card from your graveyard. For each opponent, create a token copy that attacks that opponent this turn if able. They gain haste. Sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step. Activate only as a sorcery. So if you play it for 3 mana out of the graveyard, Kinsbell Courier enters the battlefield. You place +1/+1 counters on for each one created, which is equal to the amount of opponents you control. And yeah, and then you have like a attacker and so on. Then we have Knight of the White Orchid, which is a 2-mana 2/2 human knight that reads whenever Knight of the White Orchid enters the battlefield, if an opponent controls more lands than you may search a library for a plains card, put it on the battlefield, and then shuffle. So I included this card because on turn 2, and I think like turn 3, your opponent will have 3 lands. At the beginning of your turn 3, you might have 2. Then if you play Knight of the White Orchid, you will go look for a plains, and then if you haven't missed the land drop, you will be able to play another plains, and then you have 4 lands on turn 3, which is good ramp, especially in a very casual deck like this one. Then we have Martyr's Soul, which is a 3-mana spirit soldier with Convoke, and it says when Martyr's Soul enters the battlefield, if you control no tap lands, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. Yeah, so this is probably a very good card to use Convoke with. And if you have mana rocks and you tap 1 for plains, then you can play this, and it comes in with 2 +1/+1 counters, and then it's a 5/4 on turn 3. Then we have Mentor of the Meek. I do not need to explain why this card is good. Mentor of the Meek is a 3-mana human soldier that reads whenever another creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1. If you do, draw a card, which is this great card draw. And it doesn't say non-token creature. It doesn't say token creature, it says creature. So if you create, let's say you create a 1/1 human, you can pay 1 and then draw a card just because you created a creature. Then we have Paragon of the New Dawns, which is a 4-mana 2/2 human soldier that reads other white creatures you control get +1/+1. And then for 1 plains and you tap it, another target white creature you control gains vigilance until end of turn. Which is good because vigilance keeps blockers open if you decide to attack with everything. Then we have Freezing Captain, which is a 2-mana 2/2 human soldier with first strike, and reads whenever Freezing Captain deals combat damage to a player, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. He's very good. Actually, I played this in the first game that I played with the deck. I played him, and then I just attacked everyone that had no creatures. I created 1/1 white soldier creature tokens every turn, and then I used an artifact of mine to draw me cards every time I create the token. So it was quite fun to play with. Then we have Preeminent Captain, which is a 3-mana 2/2 Kithen soldier with first strike, and it says whenever Preeminent Captain attacks, You may put a soldier creature card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. So you can use this to cheat out soldiers, have extra attackers just at a cost of 3 mana and attack trigger, which I think is very relevant in this deck, because you just attack with Odric, you attack with 3 other creatures, including this one, and then you just cheat out any soldier, and you attack with a bigger force. Then we have Rescue Retriever, which is a 5 mana dog soldier, which is and it's also a 3/3 with flash. And it reads, whenever when Rescue Retriever enters the battlefield, put the +1/+1 counter on each other soldier you control. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to 2 or other attacking soldiers you control. Yeah, so you just attack the opponent with this and soldiers, and then they won't take any damage. But I think Rescue Retriever, yeah, so this basically stops all damage done to soldiers, and there's a lot of soldiers in this deck. Then we have Reverend Hoplite, which is a 5 mana 1/2 human soldier. And then it reads, when Reverend Hoplite enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token equal to your devotion to white. Again, same with, what was it, Evangel of Heliod. You create tokens equal to your devotion. And in a casual game that's going on for a long while, you will create a lot of tokens. Then we have Rumor Gatherer, 3 mana 2/1 elf wizard, which has the ability Alliance. When another creature enters a battlefield under your control, scry 1. If this is the second time this ability has resolved this turn, draw a card. So again, it says creature and not non-token creature or like it just says creature. So any token, creature, or anything entering the battlefield will have you scry 1, and then you draw a card if it's the second time. And hopefully you trigger it the second time, and it's just good card draw. Then we have Siege Veteran, which is a 2/2 human soldier that reads, at the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Whenever another non-token soldier you control dies, create a 1/1 colorless artifact creature token. So if you attack with full board, your non-token soldier dies, you create a 1/1 colorless soldier artifact creature token. Then we have Squad Captain, which is a 4 mana 2/2 human soldier with vigilance, and then it reads, Squad Captain enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each other creature you control. So it could be potentially a very big Squad Captain human soldier. Then we have Sun Titan, which is a great addition. He is a giant, but I just felt that for a mono white deck, Sun Titan was needed. He is a 6/6 for 6 mana with vigilance, and then it reads, whenever Sun Titan enters the battlefield or attacks, you may return target permanent with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So with him, you reanimate humans every time you attack, and hopefully nobody blocks Sun Titan. But even if they do or don't, if Odric's out on the battlefield, you can choose no blocks, and you can just swing for a lot of damage. Then we have Thalia's Lieutenant, which is a 2 mana 1/1 human soldier that reads, when Thalia Lieutenant enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each other human you control. And then it reads, whenever another human enters a battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Thalia's Lieutenant. And you're playing a lot of humans, so you'll have to be able to add a lot of counters to humans. And when humans enter the battlefield, you'll buff Thalia's Lieutenant with, I mean, not buff, but like he will get counter. Then we have Valiant Veteran, which is a 2 mana 2/2 core soldier. It reads, other soldiers you control get +1/+1. And then for 5 mana, exile Valiant Veteran from your graveyard. Put a +1/+1 counter on each soldier you control. And it's just 2 mana, so a 2 mana lord that buffs all soldiers is very good in this deck, Is you have a lot of human soldiers. Then we're gonna get to the sorceries. We have deploy to the front. For 7 mana, you create X 1/1 white soldier creature tokens, where X is the number of creatures on the battlefield. Now, in the first game that I played with the deck, I played deploy to the front and I created a lot of creatures. I think I created like 28 because it counts the creatures on the battlefield, including your own creatures, which is, it just ended up being a lot. Then we have increasing devotion, which is a 5 mana sorcery that says create 5/1/1 white human creature tokens. If this spell was cast from a graveyard, create 10 of those tokens instead. I didn't get to play this, but it's very good. Then you have launch the fleet, which was insane. It's a 1 mana sorcery, but it has strife, so it costs 1 more to cast for each other target beyond the first. Until end of turn, any number of target creatures gain whenever this creature attacks. Put the 1/1 white soldier creature token onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. And I did this with Odric on the battlefield, and I think I created like for 5-6 mana, I created like 5 white soldier creature tokens. Then we have secret rendezvous. I think I just added this to draw you 3 cards and have someone else draw 2. You'll just have to choose like which player you will have draw 3 2. If you want to cut this card, it would make sense. I would actually cut this, for example, and add a skull clamp. I don't think, when I had this in my hand, I didn't play it because I didn't want anyone else drawing. But in a casual game, I think having someone else draw 3 cards could just be a lot of fun. Then an instant, we have Brave the Elements. Choose a color. White creatures you control gain protection from the chosen color until end of turn. Then we have Call the Coppercoats. I actually had this target all my opponents, and I created 14 or 16 1/1 human soldiers. But anyways, it's for 3 mana, and it also strife. It costs 1 generic and 1 plains more to cast for each target beyond the first. And then it says choose any number of target opponents. Create X 1/1 white soldier creature tokens, where X is the number of creatures that those opponents control. So I think with this I created around 14 or 16 creatures. It was quite a casual game, so everybody had creatures on the battlefield. Then we have Condemn. Put target attacking creature on the bottom of its owner's library. Its controller gains life equal to its toughness. There's some mono white removal on a budget too. And we have Make a Stand. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain indestructible until end of turn for 3 mana. Then we have Mana Tithe. For that expected turn 1 Soul Ring. You just play this and counter the Soul Ring if you really want to be that guy. But I haven't drawn it yet, so I didn't know in which situation to use it. But it could counter someone's Soul Ring and make someone very mad. Then we have Path to Exile. I think it did see play at one point, but that day has passed. Nobody plays Path to Exile anymore. I think it was a modern staple, but not anymore. For 1 mana, you exile target creature. Its controller may search their library for a basic land. Put that card onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Then you have Soul Partition, which is I don't. It depends. I think like in a non-casual game, this will have a much bigger impact. But for 2 mana, you exile target non-land permanent for as long as that card remains exiled. Its owner may play it. A spell cast by an opponent this way costs 2 more to cast, which could slow someone down. I think if you exile a commander, they will either choose commander attacks or they will just have to pay 2 more, but it makes no difference. I would probably just have this go to exile, and then you can play it from exile. That's it for the instance. Let's get to the artifacts. We have a lot of ramps, starting with Arcane Signet, just 2 mana, tap uh tap for any color of your commander's color identity, which will be mono white. Sorry. And we have Commander Sphere, which is a 3 mana artifact, taps for any color, and you can sacrifice it to draw a card. We have Endless Atlas. I had this on the battlefield, it was a lot of fun. For 2 mana, you tap it to draw a card. Activate this ability only if you control 3 or more lands with the same name. Then we have Hedron Archive, 4 mana, taps for 2. And then for 2 mana and you tap it, you sacrifice it to draw 2 cards, which will help you draw into lands or anything else if you have enough mana but need the card draw. Horn of Gondor, crazy card. For 3 mana, you for 3, it's a 3 mana legendary artifact. When it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. And then for 3 mana and you tap it, you create X 1/1 white soldier creature tokens, where X is a number of humans you control. And it fits the theme because you will have a lot of humans in this deck. Then we have Horn of Valhalla. You create, like it's an adventure card. For X and 2 mana, you create X 1/1 white soldier creature tokens. And then for its equipment cost, for 2 mana, you can cast it. Then you say, then it says equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control, and then it has equip 3. So it gets you can have Odric attack for lethal with this very easily, especially if you have a lot of creatures. Then you have Idol of Oblivion. For 2 mana, you can tap it to draw a card only if you created a token this turn, which is a lot. You are going to create a lot of creature tokens, so you can just tap it to draw cards. Then you have again Ramp, Marble Diamond, enters for 2 mana, it enters tapped, but it taps for 1 planes. Then we have Mindstone, just low on the ground mana rocks that taps for 1 but costs 2. Then we have Link's Lotus. It's a 4 mana legendary artifact that enters tapped, but you can tap it, you choose a color and add amount of that. You choose the color, then you add an amount of mana of that color equal to your devotion to that color, which is, if you have high devotion in mono white, you will net a lot of mana. I think game 1, when was it? I think game 1 or 2, playing this deck. I tapped the Link's Lotus for 5 at one point, but then someone else destroyed all artifacts, and that was feels bad, but the card pulled its own weight. Then we have Prismatic Lens, again low on the ground, 2 mana, taps for 1, or you can filter mana, but you won't need that unless you specifically want to use this to filter mana. Then we have Rogue's Gloves. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. In a Odric deck that you can make unblockable, you will always draw cards if it's equipped. Then we have Soul Ring, 1 mana, taps for 2. Then we have Spear of Heliod. It's a 3 mana, creatures you control get +1/+1. And then for 3 mana, you can tap it to destroy target creature that was dealt damage this turn. Just a little bit of artifact removal. Like removal via an artifact. Then we have Swiftfoot Boots for you to protect Odric or any creature that you want to give haste. Let's say, I would actually attach it to Odric, most likely. Or any other creature if you want Odric's trigger. Then Symmetry Matrix, it's a 4 mana artifact that reads, whenever a creature with power equal to its toughness enters the battlefield under your control, if you may pay 1, if you do, draw a card. And again, you're creating so many 1/1s, you will always, not always, but most likely be able to pay 1 and draw a card, which is a good card draw. Then Thought Vessel, 2 mana artifact, you have no maximum hand size, and it taps for 1 mana. Then we have Thran Dynamo, 4 mana artifact, taps for 3 mana. This could ramp. Then we have Veterans Armaments. It's a 2 mana soldier equipment. Whenever it reads equipped creature has, whenever this creature attacks or blocks, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each other attacking creature. And whenever a soldier enters the battle, a creature comes into play, you may attach veterans armaments to it. Then we have the enchantment mobilization, which is a 3 mana enchantment that reads attacking doesn't cause soldiers to tap. And then for 3 mana, you may put a 1/1 wise soldier creature token into play. So this is basically vigilance to soldiers, just worded differently because it's quite an old card. And then last but not least, we have 36 planes. I wanted to keep this deck budget by adding 36 lands because I don't see the point in having lands that tap for colorless with the effect or anything else. So yeah, I kept this deck very cheap, as you can tell. I think the total of this deck was on MGD Goldfish, which I use for pricing, is $39.8, which is quite cheap. I think it was around 48 or 47 when I created it, but the cards dropped as some of the cards are from sets that were released or precons. I think some examples are like actually Commander Legends, and there's a few cards that you could only get from Commander Legends, and I forgot the other set's name. But anyways, guys, that is my Odric Master Tactician deck that I built in paper. I played with this deck at actually it was a Bri. I think we had a party going of Commander at a Bri with some beers and stuff like that. But it was a lot of fun. Anyways, that's it from me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you watched this far, please subscribe, show some support, and I will keep you up to date with other decks. So I'm actually deliberating whether I should make this type of format instead of the one that I did with my Odric video. This, I wouldn't say it's less effort because I still need to brew and play test the deck, but it does save a lot of time because I work 8 to 5, I get home, I have dinner, I have stuff to do, life gets in the way, and I can't always edit and record a video that's gonna like 30 minutes, but it takes me like 10 or 11 hours to make. It's a bit tight, and yeah, so if I think the previous video that I did was $100 Odric, not Odric, Orvar, a $100 Orvar deck. So if you watch this far, I would actually require like some feedback whether I should do this style of video, just showing you a deck in the browser rather than editing the deck section after section, editing the cards together, editing the recording, swapping audio from my recording to the animation. It's a lot of work. And I think if I want to produce more videos, this is definitely an easier option. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoy the weekend. I'm going to relax after uploading this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.